The question, how many weeks in a year, gets a whopping average of 1.2 million online searches every month. The exact answer is 52.1428571429, but this answer is slightly different every 4 years during leap years. Why couldn't the answer be any easier, or at least a whole number, like 50 or 60? In this video, we'll analyse the ways we measure time, and why we use so many unique numbers to do so. For instance, why are there 24 hours in a day? Why are there 7 days in a week? Or 12 months in a year? We'll also learn how to know when a year will be a leap year and much more about time. Somebody asked, we discuss some of the most asked questions on the internet and beyond. Since ancient times, people have been looking at the skies in order to better understand our world. They noticed that the planets and stars are constantly moving in repetitive cycles. Some of these planets and stars inspired the way we measure time. Let's look at some of them. The Earth. The Earth is constantly revolving around itself. As it does, it exposes a different portion of itself to the sun. That's why we have days and nights, sunrises and sunsets, and that's how the concept of one day came to being. One day equals one revolution of the Earth around itself. From there, the concepts of hours and minutes came. The ancient Egyptians were the first to divide a day into 2 periods, daytime and nighttime, based on the position of the sun and the stars, dividing each into 12 parts. The ancient Greeks were the first to propose to create a fixed-length hour, while before each of the 12 parts of the daytime and nighttime were not of the same length. Later, based on the Babylonian idea of splitting a circle into 360 parts, which was inherited from the ancient Sumerians, Greek mathematician and astronomer Claudius Ptolemy proposed the division of the hour into 60 minutes, and that each was divided by 60 once again to create the second. The second is the base unit of modern timekeeping. We already know that a second is nothing but a day divided by 24 hours, divided by 60 minutes, divided by 60. That means that a second is nothing but a day divided by 86,400. But more recently, with globalization, high-speed trains and internet, humans found a need to measure time more precisely. In order to measure a second uniformly across the globe, scientists decided to use an unchanging natural occurrence that could keep clocks the same from Tokyo to Los Angeles. In 1967, they chose the precise vibrations of cesium atoms to do so. Atoms absorb and emit a fixed amount of energy in a frequency that can be measured, and that frequency was used to define the second. And so, 1 second is the time that elapses during 9,192,631,770 periods of the radiation produced by the transition between 2 hyperfine levels of the cesium-133 atom in an unperturbed ground state. That's how atomic clocks measure time. They're so precise that some have an expected error of only 1 second every 100 million years. Let's look at how other celestial bodies influenced units of time. The Sun. While the Earth is revolving around itself, it's also revolving around the Sun. The concept of a year was created around it. 1 year equals 1 revolution of the Earth around the Sun. Well, roughly. A full revolution of the Earth around the Sun takes 365.24237 days, or about 365 days and a quarter. And to prevent us from having to celebrate the start of a new year at midnight, then at 6 a.m., then at noon, then at 6 p.m., the Romans came up with the concept of the leap year. Every 4 years, a new day is added to a year, and February 29th happens. That way, the 4 quarters of a day that happen every year are all counted in a single year, or rather in a single day, on leap year. How can we know if a year is going to be a leap year or not? Divide the year by 4. If the result is an integer, then that year is a leap year. For instance, 2024 is a leap year. However, end-of-century years, like 800, 1000 and 1900, must be divisible by 400. This means that the year 2000 was a leap year, but the year 1900 was not. If we didn't have leap years to adjust for the extra quarter of a day each year, eventually the seasons would begin to come earlier each year, and in 720 years, summer would come on winter. The moon. While the Earth revolves around the sun, the moon revolves around the Earth. The moon's movement around the Earth inspired the length of both the month and the week. I say inspired because, just like the year, both the months and the weeks are rounded numbers. A full moon cycle going from new moon to new moon is roughly one revolution of the moon around the Earth and inspired the month. The whole cycle takes about 29.5 days. So it's not exactly a month, but close enough. Since it would be odd that a new month start in the middle of the day, out of convenience, the length of a month was rounded up to integer numbers during the Roman Empire. In order for months to match up with a year perfectly, some months were given an additional day, and so we get exactly 12 months in one year. That way we can celebrate the start of a new year every January 1st, instead of a different date and hour every year. There are historical and less logical reasons as to why some months have 30 days and some have 31 days. For instance, the months of July and August were named to honor Julius Caesar and Augustus Caesar. To give each equal importance, both months have 31 days. And that's why February has 28 days, because one of its days was borrowed to make August as long as July. In order to know if a month has 30 or 31 days, you can use your hand. Make a fist and count each knuckle and depression between the knuckles as a month like this. The first knuckle represents January, the depression next to it represents February, the following knuckle represents March, and so on. April, May, June, July. If a month falls on a knuckle, it has 31 days. If it falls in between each knuckle, it has 30 days. February is an exception with 28 or 29 days. After July, you repeat the last knuckle and go back. August, September, October, November, December. 31 days, 30 days, 31 days, 30 days, 31 days. Finally, we have the concept of a week, which is also inspired by the movement of the moon. As the moon spins around the Earth, it's illuminated by the sun and shaded by the Earth, creating different shapes, which determine the moon phases: new moon, first quarter, full moon, and third quarter. So each of these primary moon phases takes on average 7.38 days, but they vary by plus or minus 11.25%. So, based on that, the week was established to have 7 days, a rounding of the amount of time that a moon phase lasts. And that's it. That's why our calendar has so many unique numbers. At least that's how our current Western calendar works, which is the Gregorian calendar. And so here are the common units of time we've seen and the ratios between them. Some highlights. There are about 31 million seconds in a year, 3,600 seconds in an hour. There are 168 hours in a week, which doesn't seem like enough hours to me, and there are 52 weeks in a year, which also doesn't seem like a lot, because time is our most valuable asset. Use it wisely. As always, thank you very much for watching. If you liked this video, you might also like one of the suggestions we've picked for you. Also, subscribe for more. We upload a new video every week discussing some of the most asked questions on and offline. If you have any questions or suggestions, leave it in the comments. It might become our next video. See you next time.